So for a line of kits that is only 3 kits deep, the entry grade line of Gundam model kits is ridiculously impressive and has been since the beginning. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new entry grade new Gundam, and just before I actually get into it, I will mention what entry grade is just in case you're not familiar. These are kits that are 1/44th scale, exactly the same as high grades, but in a lot of ways outdo high grade itself. Straight away I'd try to go for the word basic, but I feel the word basic is an absolute disservice to this ridiculously jaw-dropping line. So I guess the best way to put it is, this is Gunpla distilled down to its elements and designed for full color accuracy in plastic with as little parts as possible, and Bandai have absolutely nailed this. As of right now, there are 3 kits available, that is the Oryx 78-2, the Strike Gundam, and now this. Fun, fast, satisfying builds. And when it comes to the new Gundam right here, this is a beautiful result with a real 80s new Gundam aesthetic. And I will mention, just in case you're not that familiar with the new Gundam, this thing is huge when it comes to 1/44th scale Gundams. This is a kit that right out of the box fits in with high grades and real grades to some degree. The overall look of the new right here is heroic, monolithic, and imposing like the original anime, and more similar to the OG anime than something we would have seen like with the real grade variant, which was a completely redesigned and reimagined version of the new. To be absolutely honest, I do find it a little bit difficult to put into words just how impressive these kits are. And I will say, even though it does say entry grade on the box, don't be fooled that this is a kit only for beginners, because this is one hell of a Gundam model kit. And coming in at under $9 from those awesome people over at Hobbylink Japan, this is a kit you cannot afford to miss. Anyway, let's jump right on into it with the build. So first off, I will mention the box right here is about the size of an average or regular sized high grade box. So these keep getting bigger and bigger. Well, I guess that makes sense. It is the big ol' new Gundam. Inside here, we've got a whole bunch of runners. Once again, this is a high grade amount of stuff in here. The color separation looks fantastic, and all of the parts are very nicely molded. Bandai have really split these up perfectly and given detail where detail is needed and no detail where they want to keep that old school anime aesthetic. In here we do have 5 runners, 2 of them are fully color separated out into a whole bunch of colors, and this is a kit that has no color correcting stickers. That's none for the eyes, not for anything. The only stickers we do get in here is a set of sticker style decals, which also look phenomenal. The build of these entry grade kits is very similar to what Bandai was releasing before with the fine build system, and it's also kind of similar to the 30-minute missions line of kits as well. We've got a build that you can basically do very easily just using this one little picture here on the front of the manual. It is a very simplistic build, but it is designed so well. I will also mention that this is a kit that does not require any tools whatsoever, so if you want to try Gunpla without even investing in a nipper or a file, you can do that. I will mention, however, I did start out this build by actually pulling this off the runner and noticed that you will get some little gate marks on it, so I decided to start nipping it out. But then I found out that most nippers don't actually work on this kit because it doesn't have the usual gates you would get on a Gundam kit. You literally have big old plastic bits going all the way up to the actual parts themselves, so the only thing that can actually really fit in there is a side cutter, kind of like the God Hand, and that's what I started using, until I realized just how satisfying it is to snap these things right off of the runners with your bare hands and then stick them together. Cleaning them up afterwards is super easy. You can use your thumbnail, or if you want to be a little more fancy, you can use some kind of file, but snapping this off the runners and snapping it together is one of the most satisfying builds around. Take a look for yourself. So finally then, when this is all put together, this is one hell of a model kit. I will mention I did do a little bit extra outside of the normal build here. So what I did is I took these safety nubs off of the V-fin so they're nice and sharp, and I did panel line this once again with Bandai's extra thin panel liners. I used gray, a little bit of black, and the brown. Anyway, let's check out those aesthetics. So now jumping into the aesthetics with a full 360-degree spin, and this thing is phenomenal. I have to remind you once again, this is just straight build, snapped together. I cleaned up next to nothing. I did remove the nubs off of the V-fin, but besides that, this is just panel-lined and that is it. There's no stickers nowhere besides the decal up on the shoulder. The eyes on this, there is no black underneath them once again. This is ridiculously crazy cool. It's just black that is implied with shadows. That is such a cool design. This thing has that big old buff, retro new Gundam look, like we would have seen with the Master Grade Verka, just simplified down to an actual anime aesthetic. I do not have the high grade to compare this to, but from what I've seen online, the color separation on this completely trounces the high grade variant. Now I will mention there is some aspects to the build, like there is no polycaps, which does mean it has the potential of getting a little bit loose over time. It doesn't feel like it so far. My other entry grades have held up quite well, and it doesn't look like it has the hips that are inclined to break like we would have seen with the RX-78-2, but only time will tell. Let's get in a little bit closer and check out some of the ridiculous detail on this thing. So working from the head down with this thing's ridiculous beauty. First off, the head on this does not have a seam line because it is all one piece, but I'm pretty sure the old new was like that. There is a little bit of a mold line right there you might want to clean up, but besides that, this is one hell of a head. Once again, black on the under eye there is implied with shadows. This has one hell of a super, handsome new Gundam face. Once again, the color separation on this seems to be pretty much perfect. Everything is just sandwiched together so perfectly. Up on the shoulder there, we do have the yellow parts, which are the little thrusters or whatever. Color separated out. The A for Amuro there on the shoulder. That is a sticker, and a very nice sticker, I might add. Usually the borders on these really shows up under close scrutiny, but this is a nice tight border, so it's not so obvious. Nice one, Bandai. The waist down here is actually part separate in a really nice way that allows the waist to actually separate in a really cool kind of way that looks really dynamic. And to make things even more awesome on this, we have a fully color separated little yellow V in the crotch there, like you see in Federation suits quite a bit, which would have been the same on the RX-78-2 as well, but that you wouldn't get in a high grade. So just adding to the impressive aspects on this kit, this little part right here on the side of the arm, that is just barely held in there with two pieces of plastic either side, so it looks like a completely separated part, and you can see through to the gray inside of that. That is impressive detailing. I'll also mention, because I'll probably forget later on, that beam saber in the arm is only molded in there. It cannot be removed at all. And speaking of awesome detail, when you do bend the knees, we do have some piston details in here as well. Now, these don't move or anything like that, but they are impressively detailed. To the side there, if you check that out, there is a little bit of a hollow part, but that's not the worst if you wanted to fill that in yourself. But yeah, everything down to that tiny little yellow segment on the feet there is all color separated in plastic. This is a kit that absolutely looks ridiculously beautiful, and I remind you, this cost less than $9 new. That is mad awesome. Anyway, let's check out what comes in the box. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's the entry grade new Gundam with absolutely everything that it comes with. Now, this comes with the full Gundam loadout of sword, board, and beam rifle, the sword being a beam saber, the board being the big ol' shield, and the beam rifle being the beam rifle, of course. Now, I will mention this is more than we would have seen with the standard version of the RX-78-2 entry grade, but we are missing something in here. Yeah, a couple of things. So first off in here, you'll notice it's missing something that should be right here, as in a massive giant fin funnel wing. Now this does not come with this entry grade at all. I assume we'll see a full package later on that does include it. As far as I know, it is compatible with the one with the high grade, but then you'd have to buy the high grade or have the high grade to use it. I don't have it. The only fin funnel wing I have that's 1/44th scale is the one that came with the real grade, and this doesn't fit on. It's a completely different attachment point to what we have right here. So yeah, it doesn't fit, but if it did, it would look a little something like that. So the next thing that we're missing is something for this right here. Now, before I mention what that is, you may notice this looks a little shorter than it should. Well, this actually broke off when I was building it, not from really putting any kind of overt amount of stress on it or anything. Now, I know Bandai's been experimenting with putting limestone or something similar into its plastic with those model kits of dinosaurs, and they're not doing anything like that here, are they? Because this plastic feels a little bit, is the word crunchy the wrong word to use? But yeah, it crunchied right off on me like a cornflake. Now this might just be an isolated case, this may not happen everywhere, so just keep it in mind that this might be a kind of brittle kind of plastic, so be careful. But yeah, as for what is actually missing off this beam saber, well, it's the beam. This is just a saber because it's missing the beam. I guess Bandai assumes at this point you may have a spare beam or two lying around unless you use every single one with all of your kits, but if you don't, the only thing this can be used for is storage up on the shoulder. Now I will mention, the new Gundam is actually able to reach and grab this itself, which is always something I love to test out on kits, but always forget to do, so it can do that. Yeah, this is basically, if you just buy this kit on its own, this is just for display up on the shoulder. Or should I say backpack? Speaking of backpack, I might as well mention this now so I don't forget, and that is, if you pop this off, this has the standard high-grade style backpack adapter, so I think that means it's time for a backpack fashion show. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't cut it off to try it on. Yeah, it doesn't fit. Anyway, on to the rest of the accessories. So next up in here we have the shield, and this is very nicely detailed once again for something that's made out of technically just two pieces. Well, two in the adapter. So we've got the front there with that sticker. Does this Amuro logo always have that green eye? That looks funny to me. Anyway, either way, looking good. Round on the back then. We've got a lot of nice molded detail in gray, but it is only gray. And then we have the adapter segment right here, which is a ball joint only, but that should do all that it needs to do. It attaches onto the rear of the arm just like so, holds on very perfectly, and this can move around a little bit so you can get the angle that you want. It is relegated to only fitting on the back of the arm though, so we do not have a choice of putting on the side or anything like that, or bringing it round in any kind of way, but still you can tilt it a little. This actually holds on so well, I find you're more likely to actually pull off the ball joint than this a lot of the time. And I did notice we do have a little bit of a divot on this side too, so can it fit both arms? No, it doesn't seem to. I thought maybe it could be used ambidextrously, but it can't. Next up in here we have the beam rifle. This just slots into the hand, as simple as that right there. I will mention that this is panel lined, so you can see all of the detail on it, and this is extremely nicely detailed. So up on top there we do have a nice navy blue matching with the rest of the mobile suit, and bottom is in white. Now this is only made out of 3 parts, but it's still very impressive looking. Now, we'll mention at this point, I usually mention the sticker that is in the side of the rifle, and that's when I realized that usually there is a bit of a sight or camera in the chest of the new Gundam just right here, but as you can see, there's nothing there in this kit, so that's probably one of the only aspects that could have done with a sticker, but Bandai didn't put any in. So yeah, we've got a fairly decent set of accessories in here. It is odd to see a new Gundam without the fin funnel wing, but I'm sure we'll see another kit with that included in future. Anyway, let's check out the articulation. So now jumping into the last bit of the review, and that of course is the articulation. As for the actual build of this once it is finished, this is very lightweight, but at the same time very, very sturdy. This really does hold up, literally. Now, from the head down. At the neck right here, it's a double ball-jointed giggity goo, so this is not a polycap, so it feels nicer than a polycap. You can actually see the kind of balls on this when you do hyperextend it, so that mightn't be for the most scale accuracy of files out there. But it does allow for over-exaggerated poses. I'm sure you can hide that well. There it is all the way down. There's the side-to-side pivot, and that can rotate the full 360. The design of the shoulders on this is incredibly impressive. I'll just pop this off so you can see that. And this is, well, I don't know what you'd call one of these joints, but it's one of those joints. So it does have a ball joint in here. That's the only point of motion. There's nothing moving inside the body. We have the full range of movement right here that gives us that, and then the full rotation at the upper arm. With the shoulder armor back on, what we get out of that is, ooh, that high without it popping off. So there we go. That's what we will get with the arm raised all the way up. The elbow joint we have in here is a single point bend, so it only gets beyond 90 degrees like so, but it does look very natural and very nice. And the wrist that we have is a simple ball joint, so that'll get you everything a ball joint will, with the flexion, extension, rotation, and if you don't like seeing the peg there, you can actually push that all the way in so it cannot be seen. Nice. The ab crunch that we have in here is a very nice double ball joint system, so it gets us from there to there, so it is quite nice. Oh, it went even further. Okay, that was clicking. That's nice. There, all the way to there. And we do have a bit of side to side there as well. That is nice. The click is just the plastic catching on itself. Also, that right there is the internal structure of this joint, just in case you are curious. It's a nice waist joint. The front skirting armor just rotates up and down. It's not a ball joint, so it's just up and down. The side skirting is a ball joint, so you get a whole lot out of that. So you can move it all the way forward, then all the way back like so, and it has some up and down as well. Next up, a typical Gundam paralyzed butt flap. As for the actual hip joint in here, it is a ball joint. I fail to understand why Bandai gives these ball joints. And unlike the first one we would have seen, this doesn't have any kind of divot up top to allow the legs to kick out a lot. They don't actually kick out that much. So what we get out of these legs when they are attached is that all the way up to the front, which is very, very nice. This out to the back, which is blocked by the paralyzed butt flap, and then all the way for the splits, this is all we get. You could argue that you wouldn't need any more than that with a Gundam kit, but it does kind of block other movement, the fact that it is just a basic ball hip joint. Next up, we've got a full spin at that upper leg. Pop that again. I suppose it's better that it will pop, as opposed to, well, outright break. Seeing as it's off, I'll leave it off, and there is the knee bend, which is incredibly nicely designed. As you can see, this little bit of a part that goes inwards there on the upper leg actually nicely slots over that part there in the thruster flap. The thruster flap does not move. Again, nice knee bend, double jointed, and let's check out the functional movement of the ankle. So first off, I will mention that this is very nicely designed. The ball joint is inside here, giving us this little bit of motion as well as what we get from up in there. So hitting that on the ground, without taking the foot off the ground, there is the movement all the way to the front. That is impressive. There it is all the way to the back, so not too bad at all. And as for the side-to-side pivot, it goes from there all the way to there. So that is nice. Again, no bend at the toe. So anyway, for the articulation on here, it isn't so bad considering the actual design and simplicity and price point of this kit. You'll get most basic poses, but I do not know why Bandai denies us a peg-style waist joint. Something similar to what we saw on the shoulder would have been very, very nice, but on the whole, very good, a little bit limited at the ankles and the hip. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and once again, when it comes to my tiering system, it's always based on the grade and always based on the kits that came first. So it's hard to decide what the baseline for entry grade is because this line, well, it keeps on evolving, and when it came out, it was very impressive to begin with. So compared to what we would have seen before, this has definitely upped the stakes a lot, so that to me, and including the price point, makes this right here once again Gundarium tier. For $9, you get one hell of a color separated, beautiful looking model kit that has some nice accessories, more than we would have seen any time before. And the articulation and build in here is phenomenal. It's fun to put together, simple to put together. This is great for builders of all levels. It is phenomenal. I love it. Just be careful with the plastic. I'm not sure if that break was my fault or not, but just beware. Anyway, if you do want one of your own, link in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, this video and none of these videos would be possible without each and every one of you watching these videos, including those of you who are supporting me on the channel memberships and over on Patreon, including VanFun, OG59061, Lawrence C-Hack, Kill Me Inc., Joseph Kukluk, Joe, Gunpla UK Limited, Global Frequency Studios, Forsetti, Caleb Engelhart, and Craig Jerry.